Hi there, I'm David Icke, and we are here to talk about fiction writing. Today, it's time to talk about that age-old question, plot or pants? Do you write by outline or do you write by discovery? I'm responding to viewer Glenn Shreves, who asked, one of the challenges I find is deciding whether to plot out the whole story in one sitting, which can be a bit clunky, or just focus on writing a couple of pre-planned scenes, but then ending up in a narrative cul-de-sac. That's a great question, Glenn, because you're getting to the very heart of that age-old question I mentioned of plot or pants. And I used to think that plotting up front was the only way to go. And then my own plot for the series that I'm writing fell to pieces. I knew the direction I wanted to go for my outline, but my characters, they dug in their heels and they said no. And so I had to switch. Right midstream, I'd switch my horses, abandon my outline, and start discovery writing. And that was kind of humbling for me because I was so convinced that outlining and plotting was the only right way. And I'm in the middle of all that right now. I still know the general direction I want to go, and I'm kind of letting my characters lead for a bit. And as long as they lead in interesting directions, that's fine. But that doesn't answer your question, Glenn. So I'm afraid that the answer is yes. You really ought to have both tools in your toolbox, and you really need to know how to use them both. Outlining works because it lets you shape the story ahead of time. And if you shape your outline to match the classic story shape, your story is going to be more likely to work. And you can see some of my thoughts on all that by the Shape of the Story series of videos, if you want more information on that. Now, stories written to an outline tend to need less drastic editing later, whereas discovery writing, you might need to do more editing later. But more important, writing to a really solid structural outline, like I talked about in that other video series, it's going to help you develop your plot sense. What is plot sense? It's like the intuitive understanding of how stories work and what makes them interesting to read. A lot of people have it naturally, or at least they did when they were younger, and then they had it trained out of them in school by all that modernist dreck that's posing as good literature these days. That's what happened to me. But if you can have plot sense trained out of you, you can have it trained in too. So read good old stories and look at how they're structured. Look at how the writers pull off the tricks that they do. The 20th century American pulps are really, really good for this. Those are stories that were written because people loved to read them. And so the writers wrote what was successful because they were paid by the word and they had to get those stories out there. People loved them because they were structured well. So study story structure and write stories according to a formula. It's okay to write for a formula. Your high school English teacher will not be grading this. Find a successful formula, write to it, and get a feel for how the formula works, and more importantly, why the formula works. We have formulas for a reason. We have recipes in cooking for a reason because they work. They produce good food. Story formulas produce good stories. So study them. Find out why they work. And then once you figure out why they work, you can throw the formula away. Good cooks don't need recipes, but they might start to learn to cook through recipes. Same thing for writers. You can use formulas like recipes to teach you how to write well. Now, if your name is Dean Wesley Smith, you can skip all this and just write as the spirit leads. Discovery writing is really fun. It's exciting. But if you don't have a well-developed plot sense, you're going to end up doing a lot of editing and rewriting. Ask me how I know. But once you've developed a good plot sense, you're going to need to outline less. And if you develop a really good plot sense and you get really practiced at discovery writing, you may never need an outline again. So if your outline is feeling stifling, if it's feeling clunky, just follow your instincts. Just start putting your characters in interesting situations and see what happens. Now, if they start taking long navel-gazing walks through the scenery, you might want to go back to your outline. Go back to the formulas that work. But if your characters start trashing your outline and start breaking out in fistfights, you might want to run with that and see where they're going to lead you. Plotting and pantsing aren't opposite poles. They are tools in your toolbox. Now, there are some great books out there on the subject of outlining and discovery writing. For plotting and story structure, I really recommend the work of K.M. Weiland and Randy Ingermanson. I'm going to have links to their sites down in the description. For discovery writing, there is nothing better than Dean Wesley Smith's book, Riding into the Dark. The man really knows how to write without an outline, and he's got advice that's going to help you, even if you do use an outline. I'll have a link to the description for that as well, and just be warned with his book that he has really strong opinions, and he's going to tell you exactly what he thinks. So read past that and get to the techniques, because again, he really knows what he's talking about. He's written lots and lots of books, and he never outlines. So that's what I have to say. If you found this helpful, please do hit the thumbs up button down there, and please hit that subscribe button and the little notification bell so you'll find out when I release my next video. And then finally, I have a question for you. Do you plot? Do you pants? Which one do you prefer? And what are the obstacles that you find that get in your way of writing, whether you outline or whether you do discovery writing? Please let me know down in the comments down there. And until next time, keep writing.